because they know we're gonna get it.
And you ain't enough cameras in the world to put a camera on it.
No,
And view all the roadside debris in Franklin County. I mean, it's just not a real good answer to it. Anyways, we do have made a motion and directed county staff to take care of that issue. On the recycling, is that in the form of a motion, your suggestion, Commissioner Sanders?
That we take it up during budget?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be my motion, Mr. Chairman.
second.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Massey to address the recycling during upcoming budget workshops. Any further discussion?
In the meantime, Commissioner, I got, the one on Alligator Point I need to install, and, St. George Island, I need to relocate.
If you found a place on Alligator Point that you can put it, because if you put it out on some back dirt, some dirt roadway out where it's not my backyard or my front yard, and it's low visibility, you're gonna have issues. We just talked about all these issues. If you put it there where nobody rides by and sees nobody doing this illegal dumping, it's gonna be massive.
Right,
Which is why you pulled the dumpster out of Alligator Point to begin with.
right.
People coming from Wakulla, that was told to me, that coming from Wakulla, coming from everywhere, just dumping stuff out. How you gonna address that?
Budget time.
Do what, Fonda?
Budget time.
Budget time.
Like you
Yeah.
almost put somebody on guard 24 hours a day, I
They,
guess.
they, find the guy,
Okay, those people we got in recycling, put them in there.
they find the guy in Carroll, the other day, found a member come from Wakulla and dumped shingles out on the side of the road.
They do it all the time.
He told me, said,
William.
somebody told me I could do this because y'all had free pickup.
There you go, I mean,
Yeah.
Businesses
so
in
where are you-
Wakulla come in there.
the question is, where are you going to put this recycling bin in Alligator Point? If you
Four
don't
lots,
put
I
it,
think
if you put it in a
Commissioner
low
said.
visibility place.
Yeah, but I met some opposition on that.
Nobody wants it.
Nobody.
Everybody wants it, but nobody wants it. And you can't just stick it out in the middle of the woods where nobody can see or that will report illegal dumping going on so that you can catch the perpetrator.
Well,
You might as
Commissioner,
well just dig a pit out in the middle of the woods somewhere, just let them throw everything in that. Because they're gonna do it anyway.
We limit with space down there, Commissioners. I think, how many lots is it? Four lots. That's-
We got the people from Alligator Point there and they've been wanting it. They ought to figure out a place for us to put it.
nobody can agree on it.
State your name for the record.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. I'm Eddie Sosman. I'm president of the Alligator Point St. Teresa Association. Two things. One is you go down the road evaluating the mandatory garbage pickup. I just encourage that you might consider the alternative of including roadside recycling as a part of that analysis when you're looking at that program. I know it's done in other neighboring counties. Okay, regarding the placement of the recycling dumpster or the recycling container at Alligator Point, I would suggest possibly, since you're looking at the mandatory garbage pickup now, just allow that process to maybe mature more and see where you may be ultimately headed. Again, also, if you're going to look at the cost of it and make some decisions in a couple of months with the budget workshop, it might be wise to just delay placing that container anywhere until you determine whether you're going to do it long-term or not. That's just a thought for your consideration.
My thoughts exactly. That's what I'm trying to reiterate here. You're just recreating the wheel and recreating another problem. If you put a dumpster back at Alligator Point and it's not in a high visibility place, then you're just going back where you just left. Same thing, same old show, you know what I'm saying?
I understand, Commissioner. Also, we got this handful saying, well, we want it. This handful saying we don't. We stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
And when your phone ringing and your emails is loaded, with all these complaints, what do? We're gonna be on somebody's side, one way or the other.
I told you.
That's
Didn't
right.
I tell you?
Yes, ma'am, you did.
What'd I tell you?
You told me, put it up. And that's what I'm here ready to do today.
But then I came to the last board meeting and, so,
If we don't put it out there, they gonna throw it on the ground. And we still got to pick it up.
they gonna throw it wherever they can.
Wherever
Well,
What I
they get.
said,
Speak your name for the record, please.
Larry Hale, I own Suncoast Realty on St. George Island, and we manage a large number of homes, and we have garbage pickup on all our rental homes. There are many people who rent their homes do not have garbage pickup, and they overload our cans. Even in the plantation where you think people have these million-dollar homes would be happy to pay garbage pickup, they'll run on the back road and stick it in my can. I caught some of them using a wildlife camera, using my garbage can when they had a Gulf front home, and they were piling garbage in my can. Now, the way we did the fire tax years ago was with an MSBU, where everybody paid the fire tax, and there was the conversation back then for about 3 different years of county commission was that nobody was gonna pay the fire tax. When we finally got the MSBU, our fire service improved, everybody's fire tax went down almost 150 or better a year across the board. And if you spread it out with an MSBU, it's not affected by homestead exemption. Everybody pays, and it's even. And I think that's something to consider. It's just not, poor people are not using garbage pickup. There's a lot of wealthy people that just decided they don't want to pay garbage pickup, so they load it off on everybody else. And we've had a real problem with our rentals, because like I say, people that rent their homes by themselves, they don't pay the garbage pickup, so they go take the most available cans. Sometimes even dragging the can down to their house, away from our rental house. It's a real problem.
Yeah,
It's aggravating.
we're very aware it's a big
Well,
problem.
And, you know, it's just like recycling. It's right behind my office on St. George Island. I looked out the other day, there was TVs, an old microwave oven. Somebody even threw a dead dog out there one time, and it stinks. And I understand people not wanting it in their own backyard. But it is a problem countywide, and I think MSBU is one way we can address it, because like I said, it's not affected by homestead exemption. Every property owner pays, and it's distributed equally. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Davidson, what you got in your report?
Yep, if the board would allow me to take some time off, May 29th through June 3rd, and also July 15th through 18th.
So move.
Second.
Before the board takes up with part of procedure, we still have no vote on Commissioner Sanders' motion to take up recycling during the budget.
I'm sorry.
Okay. We got so many stuff going on here with garbage, it's got me all trashed up.
Mr. Shooter, repeat my motion.
Motion by Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Massey to take up the issue of recycling during budget
Yeah.
workshops.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second on the floor on that issue. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carried.
Before you let Fonda go, I got one item 1 on my report. It's an information item. Inform the, don't we still need to vote on what we just did for him too?
Was there another motion pending?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wanted to take some time off, and the board made a motion to do that.
All right.
I didn't know if you were informing the board, or
Yes,
you were asking
informing the board.
permission from the board.
Yes, important.
Just informing the board, okay, we don't need a motion to take his holidays, he just informed the board that he won't be there those days.
I apologize.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
And this is also an information item, that no vote needed. Inform the board that senior services contacted staff about using the armory to store and pack their meals for delivery for seniors in Appalachia and St. George Island. They need to move from their current location at Holy Family Building on 6th Street. An employee would be in the armory from Monday to Friday from approximately 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Their client files will be kept in one of the locked offices previously used by the IFAS Extension Office. Most of their activity will be in a room previously used for storage that is down the hall from the warming kitchen. That's the best I could explain it. If you go past the warming kitchen, down the hallway, there was a little room that was just used for storage. That's where they'll be. It's right next to an exit. The armory will not be used as a congregate meal site, therefore, no seniors will be fed there. No meals will be heated at the armory. This limited use by the senior services will allow the county to continue to rent the armory during the week without any conflicts. So they'll be using that storage room, using the exit door next to it. You'll never know they're actually in the armory, to be very honest with y'all, commissioners.
And they gonna pay rent?
No, because that would be like, we give them money to help the senior
I
services,
know.
so it kind
I
of be
did
charging
that.
ourselves, yeah.
I did
kind of.
that.
I do believe we need a motion and a second from the
So
board?
moved.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Lockley, second by Commissioner Massey, to allow senior services to use that one room in the Armory to get these Meals on Wheels out to the people. Any other comments?
Yeah, that's the reason we moved them down there. The city wanted them to pay $1,600 a month.
Well, you're correct, but that's not in the report, but you are correct. So it wouldn't be advantageous for the county to try to rent them a room, and I don't think we're gonna do that anyway. And me and Mr. Morone talked about this a lot, and he gathered this information and brought back, because I didn't really know what they were wanting to do. But I'm fine with that, so we do have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor? All opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Back to Mr. Davis. Do you have anything else in your report, Finder, that needs to be brought to the board's attention?
No, I think that's it, Commissioner.
Does any of the board members have anything for Mr. Davis?
No. Enjoy your vacation.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you for coming in today. Next would be Ms. Pam Burnell, Emergency Management Director.
Good morning, Commissioners. I do not have any action items at this time, but I do want to let y'all know that we did get the third grant for the residential mitigation grant again this year. They're actually calling it something else, flood something. That will be coming in the next couple of weeks. I think what we actually got this year is like $194,000. So I'll be bringing that to the board as soon as I get that contract.
Does the board have anything for Ms. Pam?
One question. No EOCs were funded during the legislative session. And see, that's upsetting to me because Brian Coon with the emergency management told me at a meeting down south that the governor's priorities was there was 12 at-risk EOCs in Florida, and that before the end of his term, he would like to see, and he was gonna help progress new EOCs to be built.
Actually, there was one county that was in a line item budget there. They didn't get it. But what he had put in the budget was for design of new EOCs. And that didn't
But
pass.
no money to build.
No money to build. He had it in his budget that they would pay for the architectural designs for new EOCs, but that didn't pass either. I think very little of his budget passed.
Alan, you had something on your report?
Yeah, I have one item report. This deals, and Pam, I talked before the meeting, and she's already talked to Clint Davis. So let me go through this item on one of my report. It deals with implementing future fire bans. As you know, I make a lot of noise at board meetings, but I apologize. I seem to be making extra noise this morning, so I apologize for this additional call. All right, this is item number one on my report. Board update on protocol for implementing future fire bans. At the last BCC meeting, the board requested staff to investigate who has the authority to implement a fire ban. Mr. Schuer asked me to make the phone calls to the State Fire Marshal's office, which ultimately led me to the Florida Forest Service. I have spoken to a number of people, and I believe this is the proper protocol. First, the State Fire Marshal's office has nothing to do with the issuing of fire bans, or even if determining if one is appropriate. I got this from Mr. Keith Marshall, Assistant State Fire Marshal for the state, and he spoke with the State Fire Marshal. The Florida Forest Service does regulate certain types of fires. As an example, they control the burning of any brush fire that is more than 8 feet in diameter, and they also provide public outreach to local governments who want assistance in determining local fire bans. I spoke to Mr. John Fish, Florida Forest Service headquarters in Tallahassee, and also to Mr. Clint Davis, Franklin County Forest Operations Manager. The Florida Forest Service does not issue bans outright, but they control burning by not issuing burn permits. If conditions are severe and broad-based, the Florida Forest Service might put out a notice that burn permits are not going to be issued, which then people interpret as a burn ban. But the decision on the issuance of burn bans is made daily. The Florida Forest Service does not regulate such things as outdoor grilling or small, less than 8 feet in diameter fires. So if those aren't issued, then the local government must determine if such a ban is necessary and then issue the said ban. The Florida Forest Service is ready to assist a local government in determining the types of bans that might be appropriate for a certain set of conditions. And that statement I just read to you, I went over with Clint Davis, and so I'm confident that that they will help us, and we're going to prove that in just a minute here. Once the local government, in this case, the Franklin County Board of Commissioners, votes to impose a local fire ban, then the County Emergency Management Office is responsible for sending out the notice. The local volunteer fire departments, local law enforcement, and forestry personnel are all authorized to assist in enforcement. The request for a local fire ban can come from the Division of Forestry, any local fire department, or be the creation of the board itself. But the approval and establishment of penalties of a local fire ban is the authority of the county commission and no one else. So right now, there is no ban burn anywhere in Franklin County. Yesterday afternoon, when I did not have my phone on, I wasn't feeling well, I did get a call from Jay Abbott, fire chief on St. George Island. He asked me, was the board going to bring up a fire ban? I didn't get that message till this morning. I spoke to him briefly before the meeting when he was already engaged in something else. And so he asked me to ask the board to impose a fire ban this morning on St. George Island. And what I have to hand out is, and I told Jay that I thought that what I thought was appropriate was for the board to consider the type of fire ban that we imposed, the county imposed in 2007, which is the last time we had this issue in front of the board. And in 2007, you had the emergency management director at that time, Butch Baker. You had the Forest Service person at that time, David Morse, and you had Steve Fling at that time, head of firefighters, came to the Board of County Commissioners, and you did, in a public meeting, impose a fire ban. If you all are interested in doing something, Pam this morning has spoken to Clinton Davis, and it's really the board's decision about whether you think there's enough fire crisis concern on St. George Island specifically, since you have the chief out there requesting it, to go ahead and impose a temporary outdoor fire ban. And what we did what the board did in 2007 was, we declared a drought exists, and then the board determined that open fires and use of outdoor burning devices are prohibited, except for the above-ground self-contained cooking grills that are attended to and monitored by responsible adults. The use of charcoal briquettes is allowed, so long as the briquettes are thoroughly extinguished with water after use. And we do have a statement in here about fireworks, because it apparently is being done closer to 4th of July. Well, actually, it's May 15th. How about that? May 16th. Okay. And then we make a violation of the ordinance by misdemeanor, punishable by fine not to exceed 500 days. That's the important thing the board does, is that we give power to the ordinance, power to this ban. So I'm gonna let Pam say what, she's talked to Clinton Davis just 5 minutes ago about his opinion on things. And then, so basically, Jay Abbott has asked a fire ban to be imposed on St. George Island, and I'll take it from there.
Just on St. George Island?
Well, that's all, that's his.
That's all he's
that's his-
responsible for, I know, but just on St. George Island.
Let's see what Clinton Davis says about the county.
I spoke to forestry, and basically they said that our humidity index is still in the 400s. Normally, when a fire ban's implemented, it's over 500. But he also said that because we are on the coast, we are a little bit drier than most of our inland counties. So he's going to send me some websites so we can I can look at it and see if the humidity's rising. But again, we are drier because we are on the coast, than most places. So he said it was basically up to the board, whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah, I don't think Jay Abbott should have authority to be doing nothing. It should be left up to you. That's what you get paid for, and the county commissioners.
We've been down that road with him, and he, once again, he told us that basically he had
He's
the
a volunteer fire
that he had the
chief.
authority. That's why, when it was brought up at the last board meeting, I asked Mr. Schuler, I wanted to know point blank, who had the authority. I never believed he had the authority, but he has said it in multiple meetings that he had the authority. I have him on tape where we taped a meeting a couple weeks ago after the fire that he implemented his own fire ban.
I think that we've laid out a protocol here as to what needs to happen in the protocol that should be followed by Pam and all of our fire chiefs. And as Alan previously stated, the last one that was done as a team between EOC, a local fire chief recommendation, and the forestry's recommendation. I will say that if we implement a fire ban on St. George Island and something happens on the mainland, well, what do we look like? We look like we issue one for the island, but now something on the mainland is burning up. And as I talked with Pam and Alan before the meeting in the back room, I'm sure some of you witnessed us coming out of there. That's what we were discussing. I think if we do a fire ban, we ought to do it for the whole county. Now, this can be lifted at the next meeting, if things change, if we get rain, I mean, just because you implement something don't mean it's there forever. It's there while the conditions are right. Now, last meeting we had, we talked about this fire stuff, and most of your fires were in South Florida. Now there's fires,
In Perry?
in Perry, which is a lot closer to home than South Florida to Franklin County. So I think the board should be prudent. If they think that it is that dry here that we need to implement a fire ban, I think it ought to be countywide until we get some significant rain to reduce that danger. I just don't think we ought to do it for just, I mean, Pam and Alice said, well, there's a lot more wind on the island. Well, there is, but the last 2 weeks has been wind everywhere. And it's dry everywhere. We were supposed to get rain Friday night and part of Saturday. We didn't get nothing. And you step on the grass, it's crunching. I mean, it is dry, folks. It is dry in this county. And if we were going to implement a ban, I'd like to see it done countywide until conditions improve. That's just
I
my
agree with
opinion.
you,
That's just my
and
opinion.
he says normally what they do is, counties normally look at their fire ban every 7 days, but I would say, we take a look at it by the next board meeting. They
Which is
give
3
you
weeks.
3 weeks. And then, in 3 weeks, we'll surely,
Hopefully get
We'll
some
have some
rain
rain.
and
Yes, sir.
conditions change. You got
Under chapter 252, your declaration of a state of emergency is mandatory that you readdress it every 7 days. So you plan on coming back next week to address this if you move forward. Because you can't impose this for a 3-week period. You have to come back in 7 days and look at renewing that state of emergency. The statute requires you to come back
For
and,
7 days.
you know, check your rainfall, check your humidity, things of that nature to determine whether there's a factual basis to continue, in this case, a state of emergency for a burn ban. But you're required, whether you declare a state of emergency for a hurricane, you still are required by the statute to come back and readdress it every 7 days.
So we've established a protocol of what should be done, how it should be done as far as any burn ban. Question is now, it's pleasure of the board of whether you want to enact this burn ban on St. George Island, or do you want to enact a ban countywide? And while you're thinking real quick, we have someone at the podium. Please state your name for the record.
Yes, sir. My name's Ken Clisby. I live at 1565 Alligator Drive. I'm a volunteer firefighter and a EMR on Alligator Point, although I'm not representing them because I didn't know this was coming up. I was here on another issue. But I will tell you, I would encourage you and ask you to impose a fire ban also on Alligator Point. I have taken the steps of already weed eating around my house with getting the grass down because it is so dry. We had our last fire department meeting, we talked about this, and we've had renters having beach fires with the wind blowing onshore sparks. We do not want to have another St. George episode on Alligator Point. And we haven't implemented a fire ban down there, but we've kind of amongst ourselves said if we see anybody with a fire on the beach, we're going to ask them to put it out and explain to them why. It is extremely dry down there on the beach. I would encourage you to have a countywide ban, at least include us, Alligator Point, Bald Point, and that area in any fire ban, because I can't tell you how dry it is. We haven't had rain down there, and we had about 1.5 inches of rain a week ago, but prior to that, it had been 6 weeks. And then we've had these constant winds. It's extremely dry. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Pleasure of the board. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I do want to ask a couple of questions. And I know we're talking about the protocol. I'm just trying to figure out kind of what have we typically done about these kind of issues as far as fire bans other than this and people trying to impose their own ban? And does the county have a public information officer? How does all that work? I'm just trying to figure stuff out.
I think Pam was designated the public information officer
Okay.
a few years back, or maybe that office was before Pam. I'm not sure.
actually, anything to do with emergency, yeah, I'm the public information officer. But as far as the board, it used to be Alan, which I assume now would be Michael, when it comes to speaking directly for this board.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay, I'm
Public information officer.
Public information officer, what we're talking
In
about.
other words, Michael, when we have an emergency, everybody comes to my office. I speak for the emergencies that are going on. I'm the PIO person that tells this county, the general public, what is going on during an emergency. When it comes to speaking for this board, you would be.
In a non-emergency situation?
Yes, sir.
Just for
You would be,
information?
you would be the PIO person. But a fire ban, yes, sir. Once the board says that they want to implement a fire ban, and it's like
State of emergency.
local state of an emergency, then yes, sir, I push that out. We push it out through our Facebook, we push it out through our website, we push it out to the TV stations and through the local radio stations.
So basically, what the attorney was telling us is we enact a fire ban, we'll have to come back at least every 7 days to readdress this. To me, that's part of our job as commissioners. If it's that much of an emergency that we're going to implement a fire ban, then it should be no problem for us to get back together every 7 days and address the issue. If it's not an emergency, then we don't need a fire ban. So that's basically what the attorney was telling us, and it is the pleasure of the board. You do have the fire chief on the island asking for a ban, and we've had other people from the public here stating it, and myself stating that if you're gonna do a fire ban, it's dry everywhere. I don't see no sense in just do it. I'd hate to do it for the island, and then we have a fire on the mainland, and then we're gonna look like, well, they weren't up on their job. They did it for the island, but the rest of it's gonna burn up. I think it's dry everywhere, and I think it's warranted. It is the pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion to do it county-wide until,
And I would say follow the language that you adopted in 2007, to be honest, Commissioners. I think that's adequate and appropriate language and controls the fire ban in the appropriate way.
Mr. Chairman, procedurally, the motion would be to declare a local state of emergency and impose a burn ban as was previously read into the record by Mr. Pierce. If there's a second to that motion, it will only be effective if there is a supermajority, 4/5 or more of the board approves the declaration of the local state of emergency.
Is that your motion, Commissioner Massey?
yes, sir.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion?
I just want to bring to the board's attention that the burn ban that we enforced in 2007 was a burn ban for Franklin County, not just a certain area.
Any other discussion? We do have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor? All opposed? The motion carries. Ms. Pam, you have anything else you need to bring to the board's attention?
No, sir, not at this time, but
Does-
I'll get that written up and get it to you to get signed.
Does any of the board members have anything for Ms. Pam?
No, but Mr. Chairman, I would like copies of this burn ban, the ordinance sent out to all the fire departments in the county.
And on the
On the
website.
website, to where everybody will see that and know that they can have their charcoal grills, they just have to extinguish them after.
And Michael, also, if you would get in touch with Oyster Radio and have them do a PSA on this, so that everybody's aware whether they're out.
Her office will be contacted.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
we'll push it out.
Okay.
And
Well,
again,
that don't,
in 2008, after I took office, we put out water hoses at all of our county parks. Unfortunately, those get stole. I mean, I bought water hoses out of my EMPA grant and put them out at all our county parks because we had implemented something similar to this, and then they all got stolen. So, I mean, that's another option, but again, they won't be there past the day. Somebody will take those water
No,
hoses.
you're not gonna leave a water hose nowhere.
No, well, we found that out, but at least we were trying to do our part. We were,
Oh, yeah.
do this conclude the cities too?
Yes, sir, it will include the cities. The board specifically set a county-wide fire ban. If the cities want to exempt themselves out, then they can pass their own ordinance declaring there's not a local state of emergency as to the cities, and then they will not have a fire ban. But unless and until they do that, they will be part of the fire ban.
Pam, just one more real quick thing before we let you go, is get with Fonda and have him put notices at these different parks you're referring to that there is a burn ban in place, and please be careful with your barbecue grills and pay close attention because of the conditions.
we will actually, I will push that out through our ESF, that our realty companies. Because some of them do have a way that they can actually have it on their phone, that they can put it out as a phone notice. We also have our countywide notification that we will also use it. So everybody, yes, I know, and I'm gonna get phone calls on it, but that's the only way I know to try to reach everybody.
They don't ever call me.
Are you signed up?
Yeah.
She's
Now.
she's public information officer, though. They should call her. Okay, anything else from Miss Pam? Thank you, Pam.
All right.